Welcome everybody. This is Activities Across Grade Levels, the next Vista webinar, and today we're going to be talking about engaging science lessons, focusing on what it means to do science online because that's a different animal, as you well know. And so I am totally jazzed because we have got quite the team to share these ideas with you today. Thank you for coming and being part of it. I hope that you walk away with a bunch of good ideas. As always, we will share a number of different things, but as long as you find at least one thing that inspires you and you think will inspire some kid you've been trying to reach, we're doing good. So that is the idea for sure. Some other thanks, in addition to thanking you for being here, I'd like to thank all of the cool people in Fowler USD, Susan's team, who are joining us either live or watching the recording. All the good folks up in Jerome, all the people that I work with over there. Oh my God, love you folks at Fall City Academy and Jerome High School and Summit Elementary. I hope you are having a great finish to the semester. Additionally, we want to send out a nice thank you to Richard Byrne. Richard and I, every Friday morning, do a webinar called Two EdTech Guys, take questions and share cool stuff. Not the most creative title for a webinar, but accurately descriptive. And I hope that you will join in with that as well, because we tend to have a lot of fun sharing some cool stuff, and I am really jazzed about my share this week. So be ready for that. All right, there are some webinars coming up you should also know about. In addition to the one with Richard tomorrow, next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing one called Preparing for Next School Year. And you're like, how can you do that? Who knows what next year is going to look like? Are we going to be in school, out of school? How's it going to work? Exactly. That's why I am doing this, so that you've got a chance to stop and go, huh, that would be a framework for thinking about how I prepare, whether I am a teacher or a school leader. I'll have plenty to share next Wednesday. And noon Central, 10 Eastern, 1 p.m. Actually 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. So you know. So we want to say hello to you guys. It's a chance for you to meet us. I hope you have told us where you are in the chat. As I've mentioned multiple times, in the chat, what we'd like you to do is to say, where are you from? And send that to all panelists and attendees if you would. Susan, I'd like you to start off the panel introductions by telling us a little about yourself. And you're muted.
And I'm muted. Hi there, friends. I am Susan Stewart. I am an instructional technology teacher on special time assignment. Say that 10 times fast. From the Fresno area, I have been teaching in Fowler Unified for 20 years. Before being a teacher on special assignment or a tech coach, I was a kindergarten and second grade teacher. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about science in the early years.
Awesome. My name is Rushton. I am a former high school teacher. Did some work teaching middle school as well, and I've been a principal of a K-12 school and an online high school. And then I became a nonprofit guy, and so I will inflict all sorts of ideas about my nonprofit on you a little bit later. But we got two other folks to share as well today. So Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Kim Calderon. I actually am friends with Susan. We worked together in Fowler for the last 11 years. I taught middle school, and then this year I journeyed out of Fowler, and I'm currently working as a district science coach for 3-6 Science in Madera Unified. And I'm actually leaving that at the end of the year, and I'm going to teach high school biology at a CTE charter school for Fresno County Office of Ed. So
wow, very exciting, very cool. Well, Kim, wonderful to have you on the team as well. Tara, I was, you know, when we've been putting this team together, I was like, could I convince Tara to join this and then talk to her? And she was like, we can do that. Tara, talk to us.
I'm happy to be here today. I'm a former college professor who, for the last 4 years, has been teaching everything biology at an all-boys Catholic school in San Mateo. So freshman bio, AP bio, and a disease and physiology class. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I hope we get a little time later to talk about your disease and physiology class. This is an interesting year for that to be happening,
for sure.
Without doubt, right? So as I mentioned, I have this little nonprofit. What is Next Vista for Learning, you ask? I am so glad you asked. Actually, what it is a library. It's an online library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from, all for a student audience, all screen content, my own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. Boop. All right, so with that, you know what, and I hope you'll give that a look. We've got so many cool videos that kids have made, and we love to highlight the creative approaches to learning anything that people come up with. We have collections about different academic topics and communities around the world and service to others and careers and English language. So if you're interested in any of that, just let me know. And yes, I did press record. Thank you for checking on that, Kim. I was caught it. I'm like, did I? All good. All right. So when we think about what it means under the pandemic, right, to have switched for so many people from in-person to online instruction, our goal is to find where these strengths are. It turns out that yes, this is hard on a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of kids are having trouble making the transition. And yet there are kids who are thriving with this environment as well. Those kids who maybe they just needed more sleep. Maybe the issue was that there were social distractions in their setting. Maybe they fidget a lot. Whatever it is, there are kids who are doing well, and we're trying to learn from these experiences in order to be able to bring the best of ourselves and our subjects to our kids as we go forward. So with that, we'll kind of leap into how this one's going to work. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the youngest kiddos, the K-2 crowd. We'll go from there to upper elementary, grades 3 through 5, then some middle school ideas, then some high school ideas. We'll give you some promising resources, and then wind down with some questions. So starting us with the young learners, I want to hand this over to Susan. Susan, it is in your ballpark now. Go.
Awesome. Thank you, Rushton. Yeah, we're talking about exploring science in the early years. And a lot of times when you talk about science in schools right now, for a long time, science has been about reading about science, right? We read about science, but we really want to make sure we focus on that part of science where we do science, because science is something you should have your hands on. And now that we're not at school with kids, it's been some creativity bringing science in. How do we have them explore and touch and feel and experience science when we're not there to design the learning activity? So we have a couple things on the following slides. One, of course, being, taking advantage of that home environment. Here, the task for students was to go find some rocks. And student found some rocks. We use the tool Seesaw for them to add some labels. And you could see the student said this was bumpy, smooth, shiny. So they were using adjectives to talk about the different characteristics or qualities of these rocks, right? What science demonstrations can be in the home. There are a lot of things around them, and they can explore right there where they are. Of course, having young learners develop some of those notice and wonder. Like, I notice those rocks are shiny. I notice that some rocks are bumpy. I wonder why the rocks are different. Just having them make observations through I notice statements and ask questions, wonders, a great way for have them just starting to explore the world. And of course, I use tools like Seesaw and Flipgrid. I talk about those ones all the time because they're so user-friendly and intuitive for even little ones to push a button and capture learning. On the next couple of slides, we have an example here of states of matter. Now, this is a base level Seesaw activity, and there's an activity library where students could do something like this. They take an existing photo and label it. That would be level 1 at Seesaw, ready to go. Teachers could use this right away. And we can go further like we did in the next photo, where the student can actually capture that same learning in their own world. So in the first one, we provided a photo for them and they had to label states of matter. And here the student was able to go around their house, find something that was a solid, find something liquid, and find something gas. And I love the creativity there where the student didn't actually see steam coming out at that moment, but was able to represent that, with a picture. So, and then there is a recording, we won't play it right now, but where the student actually expresses, this is a solid, the pool is a liquid, and the steam in the teapot is gas. So a really great way for them to show the science through their home. And the next video we're going to show, this is my friend Miguel, and I want you to just give it a listen and then we'll chat.
Good morning, Miguel.
Good morning, Missy Mom.
How are you?
Good.
I heard you learned about a new animal. What animal did you learn about?
Hippos.
Can you tell me 3 animal facts you learned?
First, they're heavy. Next, they're gray. Last, they like water.
Why do they like water?
They keep them cool.
Oh, did you learn about anything else?
When the birds get on the hippos, they start eating the bugs, and the mamas keep the baby safe from fighting hippos, from boys that want them to go away, and then they use their strong teeth to fight.
Oh.
To protect them.
Whoa. It sounds like you are a hippo expert.
Yes, I was.
All right. Bye.
Were you able to hear that?
There were parts that got a little quiet. I'll restate some of that part. So the thing is, Miguel comes in with a very clear plan, like first, next, last. And the teacher does a magical thing and says, what else do you know? And he went off script, right? He went off script and he said, started talking about the birds eating the bugs. Like Miguel is talking about symbiotic relationships. And then he started talking about the boys trying to make them go away and they use their sharp teeth and they protect them. He's talking about territorialism. So clearly he's gotten some learning, like he's understand things. And I think about Miguel, 4 years old, a TK learner. Had we given him a piece of paper and said, Miguel, what do you know about hippos? He probably would have drawn a photo of a hippo and said, I like hippos, because his literacy would have limited his ability to express his knowledge around the science thing. So he had heard and experienced it just by hitting record and letting the students speak about this topic. He talked about those things, symbiotic relationships, talked about territorialism. Miguel went off script. It wasn't just what they look like. He was able to share simple thing. So a little aside about this video, Miguel's video was put on YouTube along with many of his classmates. And he started having an audience because they had traded with another class and they were looking at each other's hippo videos. And we love it because Miguel was teaching the world about hippos, right? He wasn't just consuming facts and, putting them on a worksheet. He was teaching the world about hippos. Miguel got to do that. And he asks me often about his YouTube stats when I see Miguel. Now that he's in 3rd grade, he tells me, he goes, how my YouTube hits doing? So it's really great to see that transition made, and even in our littlest learners.
Very, very cool.
Good morning, Miguel.
And
How are you?
while it's worth seeing again, I do want to take us to the next slide, which gets us to the upper elementary crowd. And with that, we have the very cool Kim Calderon with us. All right, so Kim, I hand this over to you. Cut loose.
Yeah. So my first one is actually, so I have 3 boys at home. I have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And they're the ones who've actually turned me on to this YouTube channel. I had no idea about it. And then they're over there watching it and cracking up and being like, Mom, I need these supplies. And so for me, it's called Science Max. And his name is Phil, and I believe he's from Canada. And what he does is he takes these very simple science experiments, right? The ones we've done in class, gives it to the kids, tells them exactly what they need. They're all household materials, which I love, because right now you can't just go out and get stuff, right? You've got to use what you've got at home, and shows the kids how to build it. And then what he does is he takes it to the max. So if you're building a foil boat, the kids are building their little foil boat at home and they're testing it. And then he builds this massive foil boat and puts it in a pool and tries to ride in this giant foil boat, right? So he's taking all these science concepts, showing the kids how to do it at home, and then amping it up to another level and asking the kids, do these concepts that apply at a small level, can they apply at a larger level? And it's funny, entertaining, and he's super engaging. Sometimes his experiments totally work at the larger scale, and sometimes he discovers that they fail, which is another thing that I think is really important for kids to see, right? Like that failure piece of like, he tried to make this happen, and you know what? It just didn't work out. And he talks about learning from that piece. So Science Max is one of my favorites, and it's one that, as a teacher, I think sometimes right now, especially, our focus tends to be on that literacy and math piece maybe, and a little less on the science. So how can I do science as a parent at home with my kids? Or as a teacher, how can I assign this to my students where they may not need my guidance a little bit? And then our next one is the Exploratorium. They're out of San Francisco. They're super amazing. They're closed right now, of course. But if you ever get a chance to go in San Francisco, I highly suggest you go. But what they've done is they have all these amazing exhibits, and they've taken and kind of boiled down these really large museum scale exhibits into what they call science snacks. And again, it's all stuff that you can do with things you have at home. And like I said, to me, that's the key right now is what do you have at home? And how can I do this? And as a teacher, and my son's teacher did this last week. I sent her these snacks. I'm like, hey, you should try these out. She had all the kids. She sent a supply list home on Monday. In their Zoom on Thursday, all the kids together did these experiments, right? So they're all doing it at home, and she's talking about the science because they also give you the science behind it. So they're having this interactive science lesson as all the kids are showing off. They did the marshmallow shooters. So all these kids are at home shooting marshmallows across their living rooms as she's talking about, pressure and all these pieces. And I love them because they span all grade levels, right? Like I can do this with my third grader, but I can also do this with high school kids. It kind of goes across the board. They've even started adding family ones that you can do together as a family. So get everybody involved in doing science. And then I think the last one is my favorite, and it's the easiest one. Get your kids a notebook and send them outside. Just like Susan was talking about, right? Looking at that, notice and wonder, what do you notice right now? My kids are noticing that it is currently like 108 in Fresno. And it was not that way last week. And it sure as heck wasn't like that at the beach where we were over the weekend. But, you know, kids have this innate curiosity that they already have it, you know? And so harnessing that, and as a parent, really looking at, I don't have to have all the answers, and maybe the teacher doesn't even have all the answers, but starting kids asking those questions, they'll start to find the answers on their own. My son was like, we cut open a pineapple. Mom, can I plant the top? Sure. He's out there watering it. I don't even know if this thing is going to grow. But gosh darn it, that kid is so intent on watering the top of this pineapple that he planted in the backyard. But that's a whole science piece right there. Will it grow in our climate? I don't really know. I don't think we're set up for pineapple growth, but maybe. So all those pieces. And Rushton was even sharing, before we started, his video of his squirrel. Okay, my kids have watched that video like 10 times. And now they want to set this up in my backyard for a squirrel that lives in our neighbor's tree. And how cool is that? Like, they observed it, they watched this video, and now I'm apparently potentially going to have a squirrel like ninja thing in my backyard soon, Rushton.
Get the American Ninja Squirrel video into the set of links. So everybody, so you know, after we finish with this and we get the recording posted, we will send you the link to where you can get back to everything that we've got. So any links we mention, you'll be able to get back to. One question, by the way, Kim asked in the chat if the foil boat worked. She was too curious to like, wait, you know, did it work?
The big one, I believed, worked. He did another one where he made a boat out of something else, and that one didn't work.
Sinking is another science concept. Let's just put it that way.
It totally is, right? I mean, science is everywhere, so.
Very cool. Speaking of everywhere, middle school is part of everywhere, and let's kind of take a look at that particular interesting set of beings that are middle schoolers. One of the things that I thought, you know, what might be a really fun piece for your middle school science kids is the wealth of things that are on the OK Go site. You're like, wait a minute, OK Go, isn't that a band? Yes, it's a band. Don't they put together like really crazy videos? They do. And there's a lot of science behind those videos. And so this one in particular, the writings on the wall, is like one interesting optical illusion after another as they go through. But there is a ton of interesting educational material that they've put in what they call OK Go Sandbox, so that you can watch these crazy interesting videos. They will certainly capture attention, and it'll guide you on what kinds of different science concepts you might want to bring into the discussion as you go as well. Also, in the space of interesting videos, there was a really nice discussion on one board about the bowling robot. All right. So this person, you know, posted a video about a robot that could bowl perfectly, and the question is that real? What do you do to kind of figure it out? What kind of conversations do you get into? What do you see? What do you wonder? How do you begin to ask questions about what is it that will allow us to know? And if you haven't taken a look at Snopes, Snopes is a website designed to take things that are out there on the internet and say, is this true? Is this false? And it's not so much a political thing, although we certainly need plenty of that. Instead, it's more of a, you know, is this something that has been photoshopped in some way? Is this something that has been manipulated in video, or are we seeing something that is real? And there's a lot of cool questions that can come from the stuff that you find on Snopes. And so when you check out this particular page that's linked on this one, you're going to see the robot that bowls, and then find out, okay, is this or is this not real? Finally, for the middle school crowd, I wanted to pull yet another video in, and this one is about edible cutlery. You say, what do you mean edible cutlery? The spoons you eat, right? And so what it is that this guy in India, it looks around and he says, you know, we're pumping all of this plastic into the environment that is just, you know, the disposable stuff that come with the lunches that you buy and things like that. Wouldn't it be better if there was something that was biodegradable and, you know, would use some resource that maybe we're not getting as much use out of, and it turns out that you can make these out of millet, you can flavor them, that they can stir stuff in your tea or whatever it might be. And he talks about this story of wanting to jump into kind of the entrepreneurial space of creating this company to create edible cutlery that can save the planet. Science is that opportunity to ask really, really cool questions. And it becomes this set of stories about how people saw things a little differently and began to wonder, how do we handle this? How might we explore this? And as you see more and more of these stories, what we want to do is implant in these kids an excitement about the possibilities of the unknown. And so as I see it, this set of shares are really kind of all about that. How do you kind of get people in the space of, wait, what just happened, right? And they start into those conversations about what they think might be happening. What are their hypotheses? How do you test those hypotheses? How do you get in that space? High school. All right, and for high school, we have Dr. Tara Mann with us. And Dr. Tara, why don't you tell us a little bit about some cool things that high schoolers can be doing?
So I found it really interesting that the last couple of segments have had the kids going out into their environment. And one of my favorite things that the students do is my AP Bio homework is they get a list of 100 biology terms. And they have to create a blog for me on 25 of those with a photo. And they each have a little item, so I know they're not just pulling things from the internet, right? They actually have to go out and take a picture and then explain how their photo relates to the terms. And I really like it for a couple of reasons. You can see at the top, the endotherm, I get to see who their friends are. So that's another student in the class. I get to see all of their pets, like the two middle pictures. And I get to see siblings and family members because they're just in their environment over the summer going through. So one of the things that I like to see is I just like to see, it gives me a really good idea of who they are. They get to research some terms out in their environment. And the other thing, it's a great place to see misconceptions. I always see these coming up when they try to make a link between what they're photographing and the term. And it's really, you see common, misconceptions over and over again. And my ultimate goal is to pull their pictures back up during class when we cover these topics and share with the class. It's really great, particularly when we get to the ecology sections. So this has been something that's really fun, and thinking about distance learning, especially if you don't get to meet your students in class or spend as much time, it's a great way to kind of get to know them a little bit better as you start off the year. And I've used it in AP Bio, but we're going to start using it with the freshman bio classes as well. I just wanted to give a little shout out to one of my favorite websites, which is HHMI Biointeractive. HHMI is the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and they have a whole research branch, but they have a really exciting education branch. And I love the model: real science, real stories, and real data. So they have scientists that are actually performing the data out in the field. Often they have great videos and a whole. So I like that you're seeing the actual scientists in the field. All the scientists get really excited about sharing their work. And then a range of activities are provided. So it's not just the videos. There's a film guide that goes with it. The top one is the origin of the species, the beak of the finch. And with that short 15-minute video, there's a lab that goes with it that's the students' favorite labs. We have pliers, and we have rice and beans, and we have a terrain that goes through different conditions, and they're cracking seeds, and they really get to see how natural selection in different environments involves, and stuff is flying all over the classroom. So it's great. So they have a film guide and a lab activity, and then also differentiated activities that follow along, like with the beak of the finch, there's an amazing graphing activity if your students need to work with graphs. So I like how for all of their different lessons, they have multiple activities. Some are click and learn that are really interactive. So not only do I like the videos and the activities, but I can build on them throughout the year, and we often revisit them. So looking at the science from different perspectives within the discipline is also really nice there. So it's a great resource. And with all the distant learning, they're shifting their worksheets into Google Documents, so into Google Doc format, so you can just upload it and the students can just type in. It makes it really easy. And then my third is a student engagement platform that we started using as we shut down, called Nearpod. Love Nearpod. We started with 1 or 2 science teachers. Now the science department is using it. So you can create really interactive lessons where if you have slides that you usually use in class, you just drag and drop and they get converted into the platform. And then what's great is you can add in all kinds of activities around those. So they have, someone mentioned Flipgrid. You can have a little segment and then have the students create Flipgrid answering a question. They have drawing. So you can see in the top corner, we started a section on the digestive system. And the first thing to make sure they're all paying attention in our distance learning. And by the way, I'll just say it's really great because the students have to be engaged as you're going through the presentation and not just have themselves on loop in the Zoom window that you can see. So I know when they're actually there paying attention, and you can share their drawings, and sometimes they're really funny. And then I talked for a while, and then we had a matching with the terms as we're learning. So that was really great. And you can embed videos. So in the bottom panel, I embedded a video on COVID. And then at the end, I asked them to explain what they had watched. It's just a phenomenal tool for engagement. And one of the things that I really like is that within the Nearpod, I can have everyone pacing through at the same time on their own computers. You get a code. So I drive the advancement of the slides and the work. Or it can be student paced. So if I have a student that missed class, I just send them a separate link and they do it on their own. So it's really, really great to use in multiple ways. And then at the end, I get a nice little report on who actually participated and what their answers were. And I think that the student feedback has been really great on this as a way to keep them engaged. So I'm a big, big fan.
Very, very cool. Like we do every week, we like to bring up a few items that maybe we didn't have time to discuss in the same level of detail. But Kim took the driver's seat on this one and gave us some great ones. Kim, you want to give quick descriptions on these guys?
Sure. PhET Simulations is actually out of the University of Colorado. And they have great math and science simulations. They recently, they used to be all like Java based, and they're switching over to HTML5. So that way they run on Chromebooks, which I personally love because we were one-to-one Chromebooks. And so my kids can actually do these. My own son, who's 8, was having problems with fractions, and I plopped him down on a PhET simulation for fractions and had him, do these little fraction activities because there are all these simulations and you're moving pieces and it's really fun. And they had a good time. The other one was Twig Science Reporter. Twig is actually a K6 science adoption you can do, but they have this piece that's like a standalone piece. And they now have a YouTube channel where it gives you these great, like, 3-minute little science videos of like current events. And it even gives you the discussion questions to kind of ask your kids and guide your students along. And if you log in, it's a free account and they give you even more stuff. And it's really great. And then the last one I love is NASA Kids Club, because what kids don't love space? And it's got games and activities. You can even like drive the rover on Mars. And it's just really fun for, those kids who are like super into space and want to learn more about it.
Very cool indeed. And who added Bioman?
I did.
Good. Talk to us about Bioman.
That was me. It's a great site with some really, really fun simulations, and their games really like video games. So there's one on the cell. The kids always get students always get really bored when we're talking about organelles. They're like, oh, I know all these, but it's a game where you have to build your cell, and it's like a video game. You have to get all these nutrients and ATP, and so they really, really liked it. And for anyone that teaches immunology, it's the best immunology simulation or game I've ever used, where they have to, it's almost like asteroids or something, like they are the immune system, and it like builds and they have to kill the viruses. And that was the point where a lot of kids, it finally was like, oh, I get it. Like B cells do this and T cells do this. So they have some really wonderful games that are super fun, but also give you a chance to really reinforce those ideas.
Very, very nice. Everybody, as you know, or as I've mentioned, and as you may know, all of these links, the things that we shared and the things on Promising Resources, you'll be able to get to 2 ways. One is through the slides. We'll make the slides available to you. And then there'll be a separate doc that has all of these links as well. I'll prep that after we finish, and I'll have an email out to you hopefully later today so you can get back to it. Feel free to share those things as you go. As we make a point of telling every time we do one of these, our job is to care for these kids, to care for their learning, and in order to do that well, care for ourselves, right? In order to be the kind of teacher who's ready with a creative response, something that a kid doesn't expect in order to shift his or her perspective, we have to kind of have our own energy going. So make sure you're doing all the things you should, getting enough sleep and eating right and getting outside and walking around a little bit from time to time. As we finish up, I'll just say that I hope you'll give my little nonprofit a look. The videos at nextvista.org are free for everybody, and we would love to highlight the kind of stuff that your students make as well. If you'd like to do something like that, stay in touch with me. We'll make it happen. The newsletter comes out once a month, and typically at the beginning of the month. So we'll have something coming in next week. If you're interested in that, feel free to sign up. I have a blog called Inspiring Improvement, and I wouldn't describe my posts as regular, but you know, they happen on a whim, and I stand by what I write. So there you go. Speaking of my writing, I've got some books that I hope you'll take a look at. If you begin to read them and think, oh my God, the guy like writes like he speaks, hopefully that's entertaining for you in some fashion. And more importantly, I hope the ideas are helpful in doing what you do as a teacher or school leader, wherever you may be. So if you have some questions, we hope you will toss them in. What we typically do is finish up the recording, and then we just kind of keep talking with all the people who went to the trouble of joining us. And so if you've got questions about different things you might be trying out in your science class, we'll be putting in front of the team here and working with those ideas as we go. Susan, last comments from you.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Tara and Kim. It was so exciting to talk about science. And I think right now at the end of the year, like, it's such a great idea. I'm going to copy all of these links and send them to my own teachers again, just so they say, you know, we have a couple weeks left at some schools. I know some schools have wrapped up, but we have a few weeks left. What a great time to just have fun and explore and get sciencey, right? So, but yeah, thank you for being here, all of you attending, and those of you who get to watch later. You can find me on the internet at Tech Coach Susan, but also you can search the hashtag K2Can2, because we're all about celebrating what our littlest learners can do.
My name is Rushton Hurley, and I am really thankful that you showed up. I hope that you got plenty out of the cool set of folks that I was lucky to present with today. And let us know what you think. Feel free to send comments about things that you'd like to see, or things that intrigued you about this, or questions you may have about any of those pieces. I am very happy for you to go to nextvista.org. There's a little contact us up there, and through that you can get in touch with us for sure. In that you registered, and I therefore have your email address, I will send you the link with all the stuff very, very soon. So we hope we'll see you next week when we do the next activities across grade levels. And between now and then, maybe you'll join in on some of the other webinars we offer as well. Thanks again for joining in, and we hope that you have a wonderful weekend.